what's up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a great week. Josh, Rottman, and I recently had an opportunity to sit down with Inka Cagnasso, and we just talked about life, about skydiving, coaching, how she got into the sport, and we just had a lot of fun just talking and laughing and telling stories. We had a little bit of problem with some of the audio. You'll see the boom mic kind of moving back and forth, coming in and out of frame. So hope you have fun with that. And I just thought it'd be nice to share it with you guys. I hope that you enjoy it. The video kind of starts right in the middle of our conversation because, like I said, we had some difficulties, technical difficulties, but it was a lot of fun for us. And we're sharing that right now because we're getting ready to release her course on the Crave website. It's a fantastic course. It's called Bodywork for Flyers. She goes over strength and mobility training, a lot of flexibility exercises, warm-ups, and body flows, things that are really, really good. Just maintaining your body, your wing for body flight to help you be in better shape, to help you be stronger, more flexible, have better mobility, and that's ultimately going to make you a better flyer. So I hope you enjoy the video, and if you have a chance, go check out her course at the Crave website. It's www.cravetofly.com. All right, hope you guys have a great week and blue skies.
Dancing is a very different sport because it's been done for so long that it's really hard to progress in dancing and as fast as you can in flying and really see it and feel it. And I think in flying what was really different was the whole thing of being able to see your progression so quick, but also being able to be a part of something that was progressing so fast around you. So it was really pulling me into that.
Was progressing too.
Yeah, and that I kind of got into the tunnel flying at the point of all of that was, I would say, pretty lucky. For my, because nowadays there's so many more tunnels, there's so many more tunnel flyers and tunnel coaches, all of that, and the way that I kind of took into tunnel coaching, I think nowadays is a lot harder to do.
Sure.
Because I didn't work as an instructor, I didn't work for a tunnel, I didn't do anything like that. I wanted to, but no one wanted to hire a girl, or a little girl especially.
Did you try to get hired? Did you try to be an instructor somewhere?
Yeah, I did, but at that point there was not really. There was a few female instructors working in tunnels in the world, you know what I mean? And yeah, that was kind of the feedback. It's hey, you're not, but it was also because of how people were learning at that time, that it was all high speeds and you actually had to be able to spot people in high speeds. Mm-hmm. So it was more of a boy thing, and you can still see it because if you look at the top tunnel flyers in the world, majority of them are men, right? There's a very small percentage that are actually female flyers, and I think it still comes a lot from the fact that all those top flyers are people that have worked in the tunnels because they're the ones that could afford to get really good.
When did you first have the idea, I could maybe teach other people how to do that?
My first motivation to teach people in the tunnel was not because I wanted to teach, it was because I wanted to fly more. Okay. Which I think is really common because it is so expensive that a lot of people start working in that because they want more tunnel time, they want more air time. And that was really the motivation that I had. And then I started realizing that I actually really enjoy the teaching too. But in the beginning, it was all I needed to learn and I needed to progress. And I was really hungry for the progression. So yeah, I started teaching very, very early in my flying because that was kind of the only way for me to get that time. But I was also, I think because of my teaching background, I was really, how would I say, I wanted to make sure that I could actually give to the students that I had. So it was not abusing the situation, but it was like having the level of students that I know that I can actually teach them and instruct them. I would always, anyone who signed up for my camps, I would be very specific in having the conversations hey, what have you done? What are you learning? And making sure that I can actually teach them safely. And then I had to learn all the spots on the side because again, I did not get hired as an instructor. So I was lucky enough that I was hanging out a lot in Prague, and the instructors there were super cool, and I would just sit next to the instructor in the driver's booth all day long asking questions about like, well, why are you holding them from this arm and not from that arm, and how would you spot them if they were doing this and that, and they were talking me through everything. And then when I went in with the people that I was coaching, instead of like eventually instead of the guys holding my students, they would be like, grab that arm and I'm just going to keep an eye on that, and they were helping me out with that, which was like, I don't think anyone makes it really far without the community and the people around. Like that's something that I feel constantly very lucky about, that I've had so many people supporting me and so on. And that was definitely one of the things that was super valuable, that they kind of believed in me, because not everyone did. So like the first times when I was like, well, I'm just going to start coaching, people was like, no one does that. Like you have to be an instructor to be able to coach. And it's actually true. If you look at like the people that work as international freelance coaches at the moment, there's very few people that never worked as an instructor. So that's kind of been the most common way to do that. So a lot of people were saying, it's like, I don't think that's going to happen. And then the other thing of like, that's probably not going to happen for a girl, because that was kind of unheard of or not seen so much, that women could keep up with the guys.
That's interesting that you said, about you don't make it by yourself, but you have this network of people, right? You're talking about kind of like that support structure. And it's interesting because just this morning, I heard somebody talking about that very idea, and he was saying, we have this phrase, at least in America, like self-made, and maybe it's not just America, but maybe the Western world, self-made. And he's like, really, he was making the point that that's extremely rare. Actually, maybe never. He didn't say never, but it is extremely rare to be truly self-made. Like that really doesn't happen. And it made me realize, like even with what we're trying to do, like with Crave and putting together these courses and trying to give the skydiving community like really, really good instruction and coaching, it made me smile when I heard it, when he said that, and I thought about my own situation and all the people that are helping to put something together, this thing that is really, for me, I think it's super awesome and super fun. But like my wife, she's been so awesome to me, like so encouraging and supportive. Sharon, Harnoy Pilcher, all the work that she's done and the excitement that she's brought to the team. Even like these guys, Josh and Greg and Anna, all the instructors, like there are so many people that have been involved and will continue to be involved to make something really, really good. So it's just cool that you said that, and you thought about that for yourself, because I just this morning had thought about that because someone else brought it up, and I think that's a blessing, that we have, that we can look at our lives and see times and places when people came around us and supported us and helped us accomplish something, and then that thing actually blessed and was a benefit to others. Like think how many hundreds of people have you blessed and benefited because all those people supported you, and helped you do something. And now there's guys and girls all over the world who have benefited from that through you. That's pretty awesome. That's really cool.
It is really cool when you put it that way, for sure. And I think it's easy for us to remember the people that, for example, were teaching us and say like, oh, this and this person was like a huge part of my progression because they taught me how to do layouts or whatever. But then it's also the people that were supporting you, like, family or whoever was like, who would stick with you through all the sacrifices that you're making. And also sometimes it's your rivals or the people that don't believe in you. I started skydiving because of a dare, because someone told me that you're not going to dare. That's how I started skydiving. And it's actually one of the coolest things that's happened to me. But it was not like this person was really supporting me on my journey. They just happened to say the right words, the right time. And that brought something out of me that was really, took me into a cool direction. But yeah, sometimes...
Are you still in connection with that person?
No, not really a lot, but like he ended up skydiving. He did his course as well, and it was like a group of people that started skydiving at the same time. And like I did not have any idea what I got myself into. I did not know that there's a free fall part, which is funny because that's like the part that it's like my thing now. And I thought it was just a canopy flying. I'd seen the canopies, and I was convinced that that's what I'm about to do. I'm just gonna jump out of an airplane, and we're gonna open the parachute, and that's it. And yeah, so it was a pretty funny way of getting into that, but I really liked it.
Because like if you want to go back to community, like the AFF instructors are the first people who are really investing their time in your development as a skydiver, right?
Progression.
Yeah, and so I really badly didn't want to disappoint them, and I really wanted to show them that like I was going to be the best student they ever had, like that kind of stuff. I was like really.
That's exactly how I felt when I went through it.
I didn't do AFF.
Really?
Yeah, so
No.
you got your license in Finland or where?
I got my license in Finland. It was a small, tiny little drop zone with a small Cessna, and I did static line. Yeah. So, and even
So
like,
there was no free fall portion.
well, there was not for the first jumps, but I realized when I went for the course and I saw the videos, I'm like, oh, whoa, like there's this bit. And that was then obviously what I really like loved about it. And I remember seeing videos when I just had started skydiving of this freestyler from Finland, Heini Elo, and her husband as a team, they won the world championships in freestyle, I think twice. And I'd seen some of her competition videos. I'm like, man, I really, really want to fly like that. And then I asked how many skydives that she had, and it was like a few thousand skydives. But at this drop zone where I was jumping, like maybe you'll get 100 jumps in during a year if you're there every single weekend. The season is short too because of the weather. Sure. So for me, it was like, well, okay, well, I'm never going to make it. I've started this way too late and so on and so forth. And then I got dragged into the tunnel and I realized that like within this morning, I did like 60 skydives worth of flying time. And this is training. This feels like a dance studio. Mm-hmm. Like it feels the same. So that was what really kind of lit the fire of like, hey, I could get good at this, you know?
So the thing that y'all both brought up, the adrenaline thing, because I've thought about this a lot. I've talked to a lot of my skydiving friends and a lot of non-skydivers, you know, people who say that same thing. I think that is way more common amongst skydivers, that it's not about adrenaline at all. I mean, I think it's a very, very small percentage of skydivers who that's why they skydive. So I'm interested to know.
It seems to be the less skilled ones.
Well,
I don't want to make blanket statements.
So my question is, when you think about yourself in free fall,
Mm-hmm.
two questions. What is your absolutely favorite part of the jump? I have a part for me that's like my favorite almost every time. And then if you could help us get inside your head and your heart, and you too, Josh, I want to know both of you, like, what is it? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? I've thought about this a lot. So I can go first or I can go last word, but I want to hear, because I think it's so interesting what skydivers think about and feel like. It's kind of the deepest why, almost, you know, like why we do it, because it's.
I don't know if there's like a answer to that, because
What's your favorite part of the jump first? Do you have a
favorite part of the jump, like part of the free fall or part of the whole thing? Well, free fall, yes, for sure, but like sometimes it's just
the whole free fall portion is your favorite part.
Well, it depends, because like sometimes it's a cool setup, you're in a nice place, you're with the right people, and I don't really care what we're gonna do in free fall. I just want to jump out with my friends and enjoy that. But I'm also I really like learning, and sometimes I can be a little bit of an annoying flying buddy in that sense that I get frustrated if I'm not pushed. Like I really want to try new things. I want to do the kind of jumps that I really need to focus to know that I'm going to perform well enough, or what I feel like was good enough. So I can get frustrated if I do a few days of jumps that I feel like I'm not learning anything. So that's a huge thing for me in flying. But I would say like the absolute favorite thing for me to do in the sky right now is to be racing my husband when we're tracking, because we keep taking turns who's the faster one. And
So
yeah,
who's
especially when I'm winning. That's what I
So we're gonna say she's the fastest.
Um,
Sorry, Claudia.
Yeah, our friends kept joking about the whole fact. It's like, is this how you guys decided which last name you're gonna take? Like, who won the race? We didn't race because I have his last name right now. So just to let you guys know, it's not because of that.
Sorry, Claudia, you're the fastest.
Yeah.
See, for me, like my favorite part, and this is, I would say there are jumps where it changes, but in general, if I have to just say, in general, my favorite part of a jump is that moment when you let go of the plane. There's just something about that moment. When you're with your friends, you've got like the hope that the jump is going to be awesome. Like, you know, I'm still thinking everything's going to go great. It's going to work out. It's all going to be awesome. I haven't yet screwed it up. You know, I'm going to screw it up in a minute, but I don't know, that moment of letting go of the plane is like initiates that freedom. That is just such a fantastic moment for me every single time. It's just so good.
People ask a lot of if you still get nervous. That's a question I get a lot. When you're holding on to the door and you're looking out, you still get nervous, and that's what that made me think about, is that choice to let go of the, because I've.
But
I don't
is
think since
that the
first
moment
jump-
when you're nervous?
No, that's
I'm
not
never
the moment
nervous
I'm
at the
nervous at
door.
all.
No.
And for me, that choice to let go, I never even question it
No.
or second guess
No.
it.
It's not a choice.
That's
It's
what
like, this
I-
is what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's almost like this is like a weird analogy, but like if you have a dog and you throw a ball but you tell him to wait, he's like, oh boy, I'm gonna get that ball. That's what I feel like when I'm holding on to the door.
So
You know?
exciting. I love it.
It's just like it's like, okay, we're ready to go. It's like a starting race on a track or something.
You're on the
like
starting
that.
blocks, man.
Yeah,
It's like
starting
So
blocks.
excited.
That's the kind of feeling it is, and I'm curious for you, like after the amount of, especially with the tunnel, because I don't have a lot of experience in the tunnel. Do you still get excited? Like, do you still have the kind of like that part of you that was sleeping in the corners of dance studios so you could throw more money at the tunnel? Do you still have that excited younger version of you in there that like that's what brings you to the tunnel, or how has it changed over time and become something that still is very rewarding to you?
So when I started dancing for a living, because that was not the first thing that I did. Like I've been dancing since I was 3, but I really wanted to do that for work. But my biggest fear was like that because I'm gonna have to do it, it's gonna change my relationship with the thing that I was passionate with. So when I moved from like doing marketing and being a business consultant actually before dancing, when I did that shift, I promised to myself that if there's ever a dancing job that feels like work, I'm gonna quit it, because I don't want to start hating dancing because of the work side of that. And I think that's really helped me with the flying too, that I can kind of identify when it's going to start feeling like work in a way that's not healthy with my relationship for my passion. And I'm going to try to pick obviously I'm lucky that I can, but try to pick the opportunities that are really going to feed my soul at the same time. So that's like, it's good to miss it sometimes. Because if you do anything all the time, constantly, it's going to start all like blending into, right? But it's good to take the breaks. It's good to have a longer break of skydiving every now and then be there at the door and be like, I can't wait to let go. I can't wait to leave the plane. Or the same thing for the tunnel, like having a long enough break that you're itching to get in there. And yeah, I'm not always super stoked about it the first thing in the morning when I've been coaching a long camp and it's like day 8 and I have like a 50-hour camp going on and like everything's sore at that moment and I'm exhausted. It's not like, yay, but eventually like once it gets going, I'm like, okay, like, man, I'm so lucky to do this for a living. So, but yeah, and it like, I think in the tunnel too, it's the coolest thing when you jump in with a friend and I guess it's that feeling of freedom that you're describing, like you follow someone and you end up in this perfect flow. that you just stop you don't even realize really what was the lines that you're following, but it's just like super cool, and you're giggling and screaming and laughing and all of that, and you come out and you're hugging the person that you flew with, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of like dancing with a partner. There's a lot of similarities, like when you start flying with other people, and especially flying two ways. Like when you're dancing with someone for the first time, it's a little bit like awkward, and you don't really know the other person, and there's no flow. But then when you dance with someone for a longer period of time, like you can kind of just give them your hand and like close your eyes and fully trust that they're going to take you, and you know how to read like each little signal and sign that they give to you. And that's like when I get that feeling in a tunnel, like that's the best thing, like in terms of like flying with other people. But it's also not easy to achieve. It's not like we can just jump in together for the first time and get that sensation.
It's so hard. And like that's one of the one of my friends from the tunnel, he was an instructor with me, Adam Vara. We were flying together like almost every day. And he's a much better flyer than I am, much better. But one thing, he would push me really hard, but because we were flying together every day, a lot, it's like I didn't realize how well we knew each other in the tunnel until I tried to fly with other people. And it was awkward and uncomfortable, and we were messing each other up or running into each other or doing things, you know. And it's not like we were doing these crazy difficult lines either. I mean, it was pretty basic stuff, but still, like that, what you're describing, I realized the comfort and the joy that I had flying with my friend Adam, and the connection that we had as friends flying together and enjoying that time together. It was such a joy. And I haven't got to fly with him in months, many months, and he came to visit, and we got to get in the tunnel again. And it didn't immediately go back to normal, but there was that familiarity, that feeling of like connection and closeness. I was like, oh, and we got out after flying for a few minutes. I just gave him a big hug. I was like, Adam, I miss you so much, man. Like, oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like really, really cool.
It is. And because it's a bizarre environment too, huh? Because you cannot talk. Like you're there with your earplugs and with your helmet on and all of that. And what's really cool and intriguing about it, I think, is like the whole nonverbal communication, and how good you get when you spend enough time in a tunnel, how like you can start reading the smallest signs of someone else's body language. And when you're following someone, and I had a great mentor, a coach, and with him we flew together probably like hundreds of hours. And eventually it gets to the point that I can see him turn his head and I know what's coming. Like every little detail of the body language is so familiar. And it's really cool. It's good to put yourself to the other side of that too, and fly with people that you don't know, because it's really going to teach you. But also to be able to fly with someone being so much in your comfort zone and having 150% trust in the other person, like that's really cool too.
Yeah. Well, and some of the learning that would happen for myself, because I was comfortable with my friend. Like if I got in the tunnel and tried to fly with you, it would take me a long time to truly relax and really be comfortable, because
I can be pretty scary.
I want to impress you, or I don't know what you're doing, or you don't know where I'm at, so you're doing more advanced stuff than I'm capable of, or whatever. But like you're saying, when you know that person and you're comfortable with them and you relax, you actually are able to learn and kind of just be in the moment. And there's a joy in that. All right, can we go back to that question, because you didn't answer the question. Where you're kind of in your mind and your heart, your headspace when you're on a skydive, what are you feeling and thinking? What are the emotions?
I'm feeling and thinking. I think the cool part of that is that you're never really thinking of anything else than like what's in that moment. You're not going to be wondering what you're going to buy from the grocery store that evening or whatever. Like you're in that moment, you're with the people that you're flying with, you're whatever it is that you're doing with your body, but that's where your full focus is. And that's really cool about it, because like, especially in how hectic life is nowadays, for a lot of us, we tend to get into this, like we need to be multitasking and performing and getting stuff done. And we're always kind of like, I'm here, but I'm not, because I'm at the same time thinking of something else. And it's really cool to have the gift of skydiving. Like you can throw yourself out of an airplane, and for that free fall part of the canopy flight, you're fully present.
Yeah. What about you, Josh?
I think that more than anything, at least up to this point, and it's like, granted, I have, 500 skydives, so I don't have 7,000 to pull from, but I seem to have gravitated towards thinking about the people. I feel like skydiving has weirdly become about the people for me. And when I'm being coached, I'm thinking about what they said, and when I'm with friends, I'm thinking about how we can have more fun together. And when I'm with strangers, I'm thinking about how cool it is that this is the only place where I do stuff like that with perfect strangers. Like, you don't go to like the ski slopes and then like tap the dude in the line in front of you. You're like, you want to rip this line together? It's gonna be sick. It never happens. And so there's something really odd about the way that you interact with people, and when you're skydiving, the way that skydiving sort of facilitates an interaction with people that isn't as natural. Like, it's very natural there, but it's not natural in any other sort of like facet of life that I've found. And so I think that that's where, like, I was thinking about the other day, I haven't done a solo jump in hundreds of jumps, in probably 2 years or something like that.
They're awesome though.
I
know, and it's funny because I love doing solo jumps, and then like when I go for solo nowadays, people are kind of like, don't you have friends? Like, it's okay, like you can join us, like we can hang out with you. But I actually genuinely like doing solos, because it's the same kind of stuff. Like when you're jumping with other people, you are focused on them, and you should, right? It's not just because of the whatever emotional attachment, but also safety, right? And when you fly by yourself, when you jump out of the plane by yourself, like I'm so much more aware of like everything else. Like I can see the other groups in free fall, and I can feel the air in a different way, and I can like, it's just a completely different sensation. And I think especially when we get to a certain level, we just don't jump by ourselves anymore, because it is so much fun to fly with other people.
And
but then you're always
trying to learn things.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I learn as many things. Like, I can only teach myself what I feel like I already know.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Yeah.
But it's still really nice every now and then to just go and
So if
like
you
not
went
think,
to a-
not plan, just go and throw yourself out of an airplane. And
If you went and did a solo jump right now, what would you do? In free fall, what do you think you would do?
I usually do kind of, because I love all the tricks and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of those things in the sky, I don't really get to do them in groups. Like, I'm not going to go in a group and start throwing head down helicopters or flip twists or breakers or whatever. So, like, that kind of stuff is super, super fun to do. But also, jump sometimes it's just really basic too. I'm going to track, I'm going to lay out, go back into a track, and just, like, big lines and just cruise and feel the speed and the power and be able to focus on the sensation. You can even close your eyes, you know, like when you're there by yourself. So that's pretty fun, actually.
So now every time we go to the drop zone, we're going to see everybody's doing solo jumps now.
But I want to ask the question that's on the flip side of that coin, is like, you've also jumped in like the biggest groups of trackers also. So
Yeah.
like, for again, like from someone on the outside, like I'm the kid who watches the angle camp videos, and like that's like my YouTube, that's like my my binge watching stuff. And so I also haven't experienced what that's actually like. I love watching it, and I want to aspire to that, but I've never done it before. So like, for someone in my position who like loves what that seems to look and feel like but hasn't gotten to experience it, what would you describe it? How would you describe like the interpersonal relationships and like what happens on the ground, and then what you're trying to accomplish in the sky and what that actually feels like?
Yeah, it's I mean, there's several sides to that. I feel like for me, I'm in that sense a pretty conservative skydiver that like I said, I'm not into the adrenaline. So the best jumps are the jumps where I can trust the people around me. And eventually that's how it should be too. Like if you're really not trusting the people that you skydive with, like you should be smart enough to pull yourself up, because like the worst case scenario, you're going to miss one jump, right? But when you do have the kind of group that you know the people around you, you've flown with them before, you can trust them, you know that everyone's aware, and then you can go and do all these cool things that they seem like how is this ever going to work? And then you make it work. It's pretty insane. But definitely some of the most technical jumps, like, and now we're not talking about tracking anymore, but like dynamic, multiple point dynamic jumps and moves where you're like moving opposite directions and there's a lot of speed involved. Like it can get pretty crazy and dangerous. And that really actually requires that being the moment skill. Like your focus needs to be there, your awareness needs to be there. And if you would start drifting away from that moment, and not just, like it's also being focused in your body and being aware in your body and what you're about to do and how that's going to happen. That's required for those jumps to actually be nice and feel cool and all of that. But man, it is super fun when you have like, and my favorites are like, I would say like groups to like between 6 or 8 people. So not actually getting much bigger than that, but like having that kind of group and then being able to actually start doing more difficult lines.
Were you gonna say that?
Yeah, like going back into the bigger groups, like when you do have, like it's usually the sunset jumps, like in the tracking camps when you're like, okay, let's just like full plane load and let's just all jump out. And there is something really magical about the whole fact of like you're just watching people like from all around the sky gathering into that one formation and cruising together. And I often think of this as like, this is all happening, that the people who are standing on the ground below us have no idea that this is what's going on up in the air right now. Because I used to be one of those people that didn't even know that this all existed.
I have a question about coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a video on the Crave website that I put together where I talk about the things that I think make a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing you've probably given that some thought yourself. What are the things, if you could maybe phrase it or frame it, if you're giving advice to other people out there who are coaching, who are trying to coach, trying to help others progress, what do you think are some of the things that make someone a good coach? Is that something that you've thought about some before?
Yeah, I think, so I mentioned earlier that in the beginning when I started coaching, for me, it was not about the coaching, right? It was about the airtime, it was about the flying. And then later on, it did change, and it changed pretty drastically. But I do remember this like specific moment when I realized that I put all this effort into becoming a good flyer, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be a good teacher or a good coach, right? Because flying skill is one thing, the teaching skills are another thing. If I want to be a really good teacher, a really good coach, I'm going to have to put the same effort into developing those skills. And so that's something that, for me, it's very clear, but sometimes we kind of forget that a good flyer and a good teacher are not necessarily the same thing or the same person. So to answer your question, I think the most important thing in becoming a good coach or the whole journey is to actually genuinely be passionate about teaching other people, not just the sport or whatever it is that you are teaching.